The stars looked different from deep space. Lieutenant Kate Miller pressed her hand against the cold glass of the observation deck on the U.S. Valiant, 6 months into their exploration mission, and she still couldn't get used to the view. "Lieutenant Miller to Lab 7, the ship's computer announced. "Sample analysis complete." Kate sighed and took one last look at the stars before heading to her lab. As the ship's marine biologist, she had spent weeks studying specimens from the strange ocean moon they'd discovered. But today was different. Today they had found something unusual. The lab doors slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, her assistant Doug Peterson looked up from his screen with wide eyes. "You need to see this," Doug said, pointing to the containment unit. Inside the clear box, something moved. It wasn't like any life form Kate had ever seen. It looked like liquid metal, shifting and flowing in patterns that seemed almost deliberate. The substance was dark, with flecks of blue light pulsing through it. "What are the readings?" Kate asked, leaning closer. "That's the weird part," Doug replied. "It's giving off energy signatures unlike anything in our database. And look at this." He tapped his screen. "It's changing its molecular structure every few minutes." Kate watched as the substance pressed against the side of the container, almost as if it were looking at her. A chill ran down her spine, but not from fear. Something about this creature felt curious. "Where exactly did we find it?" she asked. "Near that destroyed alien ship," Doug said. "Captain Martinez thinks this thing might be connected to the wreckage." The intercom buzzed. "Lieutenant Miller, report to the bridge immediately." Captain Frank Martinez's voice was tense. When Kate arrived at the bridge, the atmosphere was heavy. Officers moved quickly between stations. On the main screen, a being with pale blue skin and 4 eyes looked out at them. The translation software converted its clicks and whistles to English. "You must destroy that specimen immediately," the alien said. "It is called the Phantom by many worlds. It is the deadliest predator known to the Galactic Council." Captain Martinez frowned. "What exactly are we dealing with?" "Ambassador Vex." "A killer," Ambassador Vex replied. "It has destroyed 3 advanced civilizations. It infiltrates defense systems and turns weapons against their owners. No containment can hold it for long." Kate felt her heart race. The creature in her lab didn't seem like a killer. It seemed lonely. "We'll handle it," Captain Martinez assured the ambassador. After the transmission ended, he turned to Kate. "Prepare to eject that thing into the nearest sun." "Sir," Kate protested, "we haven't completed our analysis. This could be the most important discovery of our mission." Martinez's expression softened slightly. "You have 12 hours, Lieutenant. Then it goes." That night, Kate worked alone in the lab. The creature seemed to watch her as she ran tests. The results were astounding. It could adapt to any environment, repair itself from almost any damage, and showed signs of high intelligence. "You're not a monster, are you?" she whispered to it. As if in response, the creature formed what looked like a small tendril and pressed it against the inside of the container, directly opposite Kate's finger on the outside. The ship lurched suddenly. Alarms blared. "Security breach in Sector 5, the computer announced. All personnel evacuate." Kate knew Sector 5 contained the ship's weapon systems. Was Ambassador Vex right? But the creature was still in its container, watching her. Making a split-second decision, Kate took a small sample vial and collected a tiny portion of the creature. She hid it in her pocket just as security officers rushed in. "We need to secure that thing," Officer Ben Walsh said, pointing his weapon at the container. "It hasn't done anything," Kate argued. "Orders from Captain Martinez," Ben replied. "The Galactic Council says this thing has wiped out entire planets. We're not taking chances." As they sealed the original specimen in a reinforced container, Kate felt the small vial warm in her pocket. Something told her she had made the right choice. There was more to this creature than fear and destruction. And she was going to find out what. Kate couldn't sleep that night. The small vial sat on her desk, the creature inside it moving slowly in circles. She had told no one about the sample. If Captain Martinez found out, she would lose her job. Maybe worse. She checked the time. 200 hours. The night shift would be minimal in the lab. Perfect time to run some tests without anyone asking questions. The hallways of the U.S. Valiant were quiet. Only the soft hum of the ship's engines broke the silence. Kate slipped into Lab 7 and locked the door behind her. Computer, disable recording in this room. Authorization Miller Delta 9, she said. Recording disabled for 4 hours, the computer replied. Kate placed the vial in a scanner and watched as data filled her screen. The creature's cells were unlike anything in human biology. They could change form, join together, or split apart at will. "What are you?" she whispered. A noise outside the lab made her jump. Kate quickly hid the vial in her pocket. The door slid open and Eric Daniels, the night security officer, stepped in. "Working late, Lieutenant?" he asked, eyes scanning the room. "Just catching up on some reports," Kate replied, trying to look casual. Eric nodded, but his eyes lingered on her equipment. "I heard they sent that monster into the sun today." "Standard procedure," Kate said, her heart beating fast. After Eric left, Kate exhaled slowly. She didn't trust him. Something about the way he washed her made her uncomfortable. She returned to her work, but 20 minutes later, the ship's lights flickered. Then the power to her equipment died. "Computer, status report," Kate called out. No response. Kate grabbed her vial and headed for the door, but it wouldn't open. The emergency lockdown must have activated. She was trapped. From outside, she heard shouting. Then a loud bang shook the door. Kate backed away, clutching the vial tightly. The door slid open with a screech of metal. Smoke poured in, and Kate could see red emergency lights flashing in the hallway. Eric Daniels stood in the doorway, a laser cutter in his hand. "I knew you had a sample," he said, stepping toward her. "My employers would pay well for it." "Your employers?" Kate asked, backing away. "Nexus Weapons Division," Eric replied with a smile. "They've been interested in the Phantom since the first reports came in." Kate felt anger rise in her chest. It's a living being, not a weapon. Eric lunged forward, trying to grab the vial. Kate dodged, but her elbow hit the lab counter. The vial flew from her hand and shattered on the floor. The creature splashed onto the ground like mercury. Eric cursed and reached for his weapon. "Don't!" Kate shouted, diving between Eric and the creature. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. The creature moved toward Kate, not away from her. It touched her skin, and instead of hurting, it felt warm. The substance began to sink into her skin like water into sand. Eric fired his weapon. The shot went wide, hitting a gas line. Fire erupted at the far end of the lab. Kate felt strange. Power flowed through her veins. Knowledge that wasn't hers filled her mind. In an instant, she knew the creature was scared, alone, and now, connected to her. "Get away from her." Captain Martinez appeared in the doorway, weapon drawn. Eric turned and ran, pushing past the captain and disappearing down the smoke-filled hallway. "Kate, are you hurt?" Martinez asked, approaching cautiously. Kate looked down at her hands. They looked normal, but she could feel the creature inside her, spreading through her body like warm water. "I'm fine," she lied, pulling her sleeve down to hide a patch of skin that had turned slightly silver. The sample was destroyed in the fire. As emergency teams rushed in to put out the flames, Kate felt the creature settling inside her. It wasn't hurting her. It was becoming part of her. And somehow, she knew her life would never be the same again. Kate locked the door to her quarters and leaned against it, breathing hard. 3 days had passed since the creature had entered her body. 3 days of hiding, of making excuses to stay away from the medical bay, of wearing long sleeves to cover the silver patches that sometimes appeared on her skin. "What are you doing to me?" she whispered, looking at her reflection in the mirror. For a moment, her eyes flashed blue, then returned to their normal brown. A voice answered in her head, not with words, but with feelings, images, sensations. Kate gasped and sat down on her bed, overwhelmed. "You can talk to me?" she asked. More images flooded her mind. Stars, ships, pain, running, hiding. Kate began to understand. The creature, the phantom, was showing her its memories. "You're the last one," Kate said slowly, piecing together the fragments in her mind. "The last of your kind." Sadness washed over her, but it wasn't her own. It came from the creature. "You didn't destroy those civilizations, did you?" Kate asked. "They tried to destroy you." Agreement. More images appeared in her mind. Laboratories, pain, experiments, escape, defense. "I'll call you Shade," Kate said softly. "You need a proper name, not phantom or creature." Warmth spread through her body. Shade liked the name. Kate's communicator beeped. "Lieutenant Miller, report to the bridge immediately," Captain Martinez's voice ordered. On the bridge, the atmosphere was tense. Officers moved quickly between stations, speaking in hushed tones. "Lieutenant," Martinez said when he saw her, "the Galactic Council has sent a battleship to rendezvous with us. Admiral Zorn will be boarding to inspect our containment protocols." Kate felt Shade's fear spike inside her. "Who is Admiral Zorn?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "The Council's top expert on dangerous species," Martinez replied. "And he's bringing a team of hunters." Images flashed through Kate's mind, creatures in armor with strange weapons. Hunters who had tracked Shade's kind across galaxies. Killers. "Why do we need hunters?" Kate asked. "The specimen was destroyed." Martinez looked uncomfortable. "They don't believe us. They're coming to sterilize the ship, and possibly the crew." Horror filled Kate. "They can't do that. We're an Earth vessel. They have no jurisdiction." "They claim this is a special case," Martinez said. "This creature has caused 3 extinction events. They're not taking chances." Kate felt Shade's emotion again. Not fear this time, but a correction. 3 civilizations had fallen, yes, but not because of Shade's kind. They had fallen because they had weaponized Shade's people against their enemies, and the weapons had turned against them. "When will they arrive?" Kate asked. 6 hours, Martinez replied. "I need you to prepare all your research data on the creature. Maybe we can convince them we've learned enough to satisfy their concerns." Kate nodded and left the bridge. In the corridor, she felt Shade pulse beneath her skin. "They're coming for you, aren't they?" she whispered. Confirmation. And more. Shade could help her, protect her, if she would allow it, but it would mean a deeper bond. Kate ducked into an empty storage room. "Show me," she said. "Show me what you can do." Her hand began to change. The skin rippled and turned silver. Then it stretched, formed a sharp edge, before returning to normal. "We could work together," Kate said, understanding. A true symbiosis. Agreement, strong and certain. Kate made her decision. "Then let's prepare. If Admiral Zorn wants to find you, he'll have to go through me first." As she said the words, Kate felt Shade's gratitude wash over her. For the first time since the bonding, she didn't feel afraid. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The docking bay of the U.S. Valiant was filled with tension as Admiral Zorn's shuttle landed. Kate stood beside Captain Martinez, trying to look calm. Inside her, Shade remained quiet but alert. Admiral Zorn was not what Kate expected. He was tall and thin with pale skin that seemed almost translucent. His eyes were completely black, no whites visible. "Captain Martinez," Zorn said, his voice surprisingly deep. "I trust you understand the gravity of this situation." "We do, Admiral," Martinez replied. "But I assure you, the creature has been destroyed." Zorn's black eyes scanned the assembled crew. When his gaze passed over Kate, she felt Shade recoil. "I brought hunters to verify that claim," Zorn said, gesturing to the 4 armored beings behind him. Each carried what looked like a rifle, but with a glowing blue core. They can detect even the smallest trace of the Phantom's energy. Kate felt sweat form on her brow. Shade sent her a warning. Those weapons could hurt them both. "This way, Admiral," Martine said, leading the group toward the lab where the incident had occurred. As they walked, one of the hunters moved closer to Kate. It sniffed the air near her, its helmet making a soft clicking sound. "Is something wrong?" Kate asked, trying to sound casual. The hunter tilted its head but moved away without speaking. In the lab, Zorn inspected the damaged equipment. "Show me the disposal records," he demanded. Martins handed him a datapad. As you can see, the specimen was ejected toward the nearest star. Zorn studied the records, his expression unreadable. "And yet," he said slowly, "my hunters sensed the Phantom's energy on this ship." All eyes turned to the hunters, who were now pointing their devices around the room. One of them aimed directly at Kate. "Trace detected," it said in a mechanical voice. Kate backed away, but two hunters moved to block her exit. "Lieutenant Miller," Zorn said, "you were in charge of studying the specimen, correct?" "Yes, sir," Kate replied, feeling Shade's fear mixing with her own. "And you were alone in the lab when the containment failed." "Officer Daniels was here too," Kate said. "He tried to steal the specimen for Nexus weapons." Martinez looked surprised. "You didn't mention that in your report." "I was going to, sir," Kate lied. "There wasn't time." One of the hunters moved closer, its scanner beeping faster as it approached Kate. "Strong reading," it reported to Zorn. "The human has been contaminated." Zorn's eyes narrowed. "Seize her." The hunters moved forward. Kate felt Shade surge within her, ready to fight. "Wait." Martine stepped between Kate and the hunters. "What are you going to do to her?" "Extraction and purification," Zorn said coldly. "The process is usually fatal for the host." In that moment, Kate made her choice. "Now, Shade," she whispered. Her arm transformed, becoming a silver blade. With one swift movement, she slashed the nearest hunter's weapon in half. Alarms blared throughout the ship. "Stop her," Zorn shouted. Kate felt new strength flow through her body. She leaped over the hunters with impossible agility and ran for the door. "Kate." Martinez called after her, confusion on his face. "I'm sorry, Captain," she shouted back. "They lied about everything." She raced through the corridors of the Valiant, Shade guiding her movements. Crew members stared in shock as she passed, her skin now rippling with silver patterns. "Security to all decks," Zorn's voice announced over the intercom. "Lieutenant Miller is to be captured immediately. She has been compromised by the Phantom." Kate reached a junction and stopped, unsure which way to go. Shade sent her images, the ship's layout, highlighting a path to the shuttle bay. "Can you really access the ship's systems?" Kate asked quietly. In response, the lights in the corridor went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. "That'll work," Kate said with a grim smile. As she ran toward the shuttle bay, Kate knew there was no going back. She and Shade were now fugitives, hunted by both human and alien authorities. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't alone in her fight. The small research shuttle sped away from the U.S. Valiant, its engines pushed to maximum power. Kate sat at the controls, her hands moving with new confidence as Shade guided her. "They're following us," she said, looking at the radar. Two smaller ships had launched from Zorn's battleship. Shade formed a tendril that extended from Kate's arm to the control panel. Information flowed between them, and suddenly Kate understood the shuttle systems completely. "Let's show them what we can do together," she said. The shuttle dove toward the nearby moon, a desolate rock covered in abandoned mining equipment. Kate flew low through deep canyons, using the terrain to block the hunter's scanners. "We need a place to hide and think," Kate said. Images appeared in her mind, an old mining base on the far side of the moon. Shade had seen it in the ship's database. Kate landed the shuttle inside a large cave and powered down all systems, In the darkness, her skin glowed faintly silver, Shade's essence showing through. "What do we do now?" she asked. Before Shade could answer, a light appeared at the back of the cave. Kate formed her arm into a weapon, ready to fight. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," a woman's voice called out. "Not if you want answers about your new friend." An older woman with gray hair stepped into view, holding a simple lantern. Her eyes widened at the sight of Kate's transformed arm. "A true symbiosis," the woman whispered. "They said it wasn't possible." "Who are you?" Kate demanded. "Dr. Olivia Russell," the woman replied. "Former Galactic Council scientist, currently a fugitive, like you." Kate lowered her arm but remained cautious. "How did you find us?" "I monitor all ships that enter this system," Olivia said. "When I saw Zorn's battleship, I knew someone would be running from him soon. Follow me before the hunters track your shuttle." With few options, Kate followed Olivia through a hidden door in the cave wall. Beyond was a small living space filled with equipment and screens. "You've bonded with a nebulite," Olivia said, studying Kate with fascination. "The last species the Council hasn't been able to weaponize." Shade reacted to the word nebulite with recognition. It was their true name. "Weaponize?" Kate asked. "What are you talking about?" Olivia sighed and sat down. "The Galactic Council isn't what it claims to be. It's controlled by the Vraxian Dominion, the same species as Admiral Zorn. They've spent thousands of years capturing and weaponizing powerful species. And Shade, the Nebulites, are one of those species. The only one they failed to control," Olivia confirmed. "Nebulites can bond with compatible hosts, but the Vraxians aren't compatible. Their biology rejects the bond." "So the stories about Nebulites destroying civilizations?" Kate asked. "Half-truths," Olivia said. 3 civilizations did fall, but only after they captured Nebulites and tried to use them as weapons. The Nebulites escaped and defended themselves." Kate felt Shade's agreement with this account. "But humans are compatible," Kate said, looking at her hand where silver patterns flowed beneath her skin. "Uniquely so," Olivia replied. "Human neurological structure allows for true symbiosis, a perfect partnership. The Vraxians have kept humanity isolated for decades to prevent exactly what you and your Nebulite have achieved." "Why?" Kate asked. "Because they're afraid," Olivia said simply. "The Vraxians control other species through subtle mind manipulation. Their technology doesn't work on bonded pairs. You're immune to their control." Kate absorbed this information, feeling Shade's emotions mixing with her own. Anger at past wrongs, hope for the future. "There's more," Olivia said, standing up. "I can help you and your Nebulite optimize your bond. Teach you to work together perfectly." Kate hesitated, then nodded. "Show us." Olivia smiled. "First lesson, stop thinking of yourselves as separate beings. You're becoming something new, something neither human nor Nebulite." As she spoke, Kate felt Shade pulse through her veins. For the first time, she embraced the sensation completely, and the silver patterns on her skin formed perfect, beautiful designs. 3 weeks later, Kate stood at the controls of a small ship approaching Earth. Her body had changed. Silver lines now permanently marked her skin in delicate patterns. Her eyes shifted between brown and blue depending on whether she or Shade was more in control. "Home," she whispered, looking at the blue planet. "I never thought I'd see it again." Through their now perfect bond, Shade shared her feelings. Earth wasn't Shade's home, but it could be if they succeeded. "Earth Defense Command to unidentified vessel." A voice came through the communication system. "Identify yourself immediately." Kate took a deep breath. "This is Lieutenant Kate Miller of the U.S. Valiant, requesting emergency landing and direct communication with the United Earth Council." Silence followed. Then, "Lieutenant Miller, you're listed as missing in action. Where have you been?" "I have critical information about the Galactic Council," Kate replied. "Earth is in danger." More silence. Then a new voice spoke, one that made Kate freeze. "Kate, is that really you?" It was her brother, Colonel Adam Miller. "Adam," Kate said softly, "I need to land. Please." "Permission granted," Adam replied after a moment. "But you'll be met by security teams." When Kate's ship landed at the North American Defense Base, she wasn't surprised to see dozens of armed soldiers surrounding the landing pad. At their front stood her brother, his face a mixture of relief and suspicion. She stepped out of the ship with her hands raised. "I'm not a threat, Adam." Adam stepped forward, then stopped, his eyes widening as he saw the silver patterns on her skin. "What happened to you?" Before Kate could answer, alarms blared across the base. A soldier ran to Adam with a tablet. "Sir, we have multiple unknown ships entering orbit. They're not responding to hails." "The Vraxians," Kate said. "They followed me here." Adam looked at her sharply. "How do you know that?" "Because I know what they want," Kate replied. "Me, and what I've become." In the main command center, screens showed the approaching Vraxian fleet. Officials argued about what to do. They claimed to be conducting a quarantine protocol, General Linda Wilson said. "They say we're harboring a dangerous biological entity." "They're lying," Kate said, drawing all eyes to her. "The Vraxians aren't here to protect us. They're here to keep us under control." Adam moved protectively toward his sister. "Kate, what's going on? What happened to you on that ship?" Kate looked around the room at the frightened faces. "I need to show you." She closed her eyes and let shade emerge. Silver flowed across her skin. Her hands transformed into gleaming blades, then back to normal hands. Gasps filled the room, and several soldiers raised their weapons. "Don't shoot," Adam ordered. "That's my sister. I've bonded with a being called a nebulite," Kate explained. "The Vraxians fear them because they can't control them. And they fear humans because we're compatible with nebulites." General Wilson stepped forward. "Why should we believe you?" At that moment, alarms sounded again. A soldier at a console turned. "Stealth craft detected entering atmosphere. They're on attack vectors toward major cities." "The quarantine was just a distraction," Kate said. "Their real plan is to eliminate the threat we represent." Without waiting for permission, Kate ran to a console. Her hands, now partially transformed, flew over the controls. Shade's knowledge of Vraxian technology flowed through her fingers. "I can track their stealth ships," she said, "and I can stop them. But I need access to Earth's defense grid." Adam and General Wilson exchanged looks. Then Wilson nodded. "Do it." With full access, Kate and Shade worked as one. On the screens, the previously invisible Vraxian ships appeared. Earth's defense systems locked onto them. "Fire," General Wilson ordered. The Vraxian stealth attack failed completely. Not a single weapon reached Earth's cities. In the stunned silence that followed, Kate turned to face the room. "Now do you believe me? The Vraxians have been lying to humanity for generations, and I'm not the only human who can bond with a nebulite." "There are more of these nebulites?" Adam asked. Kate nodded. "They've been hiding on Earth for generations, waiting for compatible hosts. Waiting for this moment." 1 month had passed since the failed Vraxian attack. Earth was now preparing for war. In a special training facility built deep underground, Kate watched as 12 humans practiced with their new nebulite partners. "Focus, Ben," she called to a young soldier whose arm kept shifting back to normal when he tried to form a shield. "You and your nebulite need to want the same thing at the same time." Ben nodded and tried again. This time, a perfect silver shield formed on his arm. "Better," Kate said with a smile. Adam walked into the training room, his face serious. "Kate, we need to talk." In a private office, Adam showed her images from Earth's deep space monitors. The Vraxian fleet had grown. Dozens of battleships now orbited just beyond Earth's defensive range. "They'll attack soon," Adam said. "Are your bonded pairs ready?" Kate sighed. "They're learning fast, but we need more time. The bond takes weeks to stabilize completely." Through their connection, Shade shared information with Kate. She nodded as new understanding filled her mind. Shade says there's something I need to tell you, Kate said, about what the Nebulites really are. I'm listening, Adam replied. They were guardians, Kate explained. Before the Vraxians rose to power, the Nebulites protected balance in the galaxy. They bonded with worthy species to share knowledge and maintain peace. Adam leaned forward. What happened? The Vraxians feared them because they couldn't control them. They hunted the Nebulites nearly to extinction. Kate's skin rippled with silver as Shade showed more memories. The few who survived hid on planets like Earth, waiting for the right time to return. Adam processed this information. So we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting to restore the old guardians. Yes, Kate said, but there's a problem. The longer I'm bonded with Shade, the harder it is to tell where I end and Shade begins. Our minds are merging. Is that dangerous? Adam asked, concern clear on his face. I don't know, Kate admitted. Sometimes I worry I'm losing myself. Other times, it feels like I'm becoming more than I was. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Adam's communicator buzzed. Sir, the Vraxians are moving. The voice reported. They're attacking our orbital defenses. Kate and Adam rushed to the command center. On large screens, they watched as Earth's space stations were overwhelmed by Vraxian ships. They're targeting our defense installations first, General Wilson said. Classic invasion strategy. Kate felt Shade's urgency. We need to deploy now, ready or not. The bonded pairs aren't fully trained, Adam protested. We don't have a choice, Kate replied. Within an hour, 13 small ships launched from Earth, each carrying a human Nebulite pair. Kate led them, her ship modified to accommodate her enhanced abilities. As they approached the battle, Kate opened a communication channel to her team. Remember your training. Trust your Nebulites. They've fought these enemies before. The small squad of bonded pairs entered the fight. Though outnumbered, they had advantages. The Vraxians couldn't track them effectively. Their ships, enhanced by Nebulite technology, moved with impossible speed and precision. Kate dove straight toward the largest Vraxian vessel. That's Admiral Zorn's ship, she told her team. He's coordinating the attack. As she approached Zorn's ship, Kate felt a strange sensation. Her mind connected not just with Shade, but with all the other human Nebulite pairs. Their thoughts merged into a unified network. Can everyone feel that? Ben's voice came through the communication system. Yes, Kate replied. The Nebulites are linking us together. We can coordinate perfectly now. With their minds connected, the human Nebulite pairs began to turn the tide of battle. They moved as one, predicting each other's actions without words. But then Kate's sensors detected something new. A massive weapon was deploying from Zorn's ship, something ancient and terrible. Through their bond, Shade showed her what it was. A device designed long ago to forcibly separate Nebulites from their hosts. Fall back, Kate ordered her team. Zorn has a separation weapon. But it was too late. The weapon powered up, its energy building to critical levels. Kate's ship shuddered as the first waves of energy from Zorn's weapon washed over it. Inside her, Shade twisted in pain, fighting to maintain their bond. Hold on, Kate told both Shade and her team. We can get through this. Through their mental connection, she could feel the other human Nebulite pairs struggling. Two had already separated, the humans now drifting in damaged ships, while their Nebulite partners faded like mist. We need to destroy that weapon, Ben called through the communication system, his voice trained. Cover me, Kate replied, pushing her ship toward Zorn's vessel. As she flew closer, Kate saw Admiral Zorn through the view screen of his ship. His black eyes watched her approach with cold calculation. Your species could have joined us. Zorn's voice came through her communication system. Humans had potential to serve the Vraxian Dominion. Instead, you choose to bond with our ancient enemies. We don't serve anyone, Kate replied. That's what scares you. Kate's ship took heavy fire as she approached the weapon. Warning lights flashed across her controls. She wouldn't make it in time. In that moment, Kate felt Shade's thoughts merge completely with her own. No longer two beings thinking together. They became something new. Their consciousness expanded, connecting even more deeply with the other human nebulite pairs. "We need to merge fully," Kate/Shade communicated to the others. "It's the only way." One by one, the remaining pairs followed their example. Human and nebulite consciousnesses merged completely, creating new beings that were neither one nor the other. Through this perfect union, they coordinated perfectly. 3 ships formed a shield around Kate's vessel. 2 more disabled Vraxian fighters. Together, they created a path to Zorn's weapon. On Earth, the command center watched in awe as the small team of ships moved with impossible precision. "What's happening up there?" General Wilson asked. Adam studied the screens. "They're evolving," he said quietly, "becoming something new." Kate's ship reached the separation weapon. The energy pouring from it was overwhelming, but in her new merged state, she could see its weakness. "The power core," she communicated to her team. "Target these coordinates." All the human nebulite ships fired simultaneously, their weapons enhanced by nebulite technology. The separation weapon's core cracked, then exploded in a flash of brilliant light. Admiral Zorn's furious face appeared on Kate's view screen. "This isn't over, abomination. The Vraxian Dominion will never." His transmission cut off as his ship's systems failed, damaged by the explosion. Without the separation weapon, the Vraxian forces began to falter. The merged human nebulite pairs pressed their advantage, disabling ship after ship. Within hours, the Vraxian fleet was in full retreat. Earth had won its first interstellar battle. When Kate landed her ship back on Earth, a crowd had gathered to meet the heroes. Adam pushed through to reach her as the cockpit opened. He stopped short when he saw her. Kate's appearance had changed. Her skin glowed with intricate silver patterns. Her eyes shifted between colors with each blink. "Kate?" Adam asked cautiously. She smiled. "Yes and no. I'm still Kate, but I'm Shade too. We're one being now." "Can you separate again?" Adam asked. She shook her head. "No, but we don't want to. We're something new, something better together." The other merged pairs joined them, each with their own unique appearance. Some had silver hair, others had patterns that covered their entire bodies. All had the same peaceful, powerful presence. "What do we call you now?" General Wilson asked as she approached. Kate looked at her fellow merged beings, then back at the general. "We are the Guardians. Not human, not nebulite, but protectors of both and all other life." Adam stepped forward and hugged his sister, despite her changed appearance. "So what happens now?" Kate smiled. "Now we rebuild the ancient order of Guardians. There are more nebulites out there, hiding on other worlds, and there are more humans who can bond with them." She looked up at the stars, now visible as the sun set. "The Vraxians will return with a larger force, but by then, we'll be ready. Earth won't just defend itself. We'll free the other species under Vraxian control." "From newcomers in the galaxy to its saviors," Adam said with a small smile. Kate nodded. "That's humanity's gift. We don't fear the unknown. We embrace it, learn from it, and grow with it." As night fell completely, the new Guardian's silver patterns glowed like stars against the darkness, a promise of hope for Earth and the galaxy beyond.